Welcome, everyone. Today, we have a very special story to share with you. Get ready to be moved by the account of Veronica Santos, a 56-year-old accountant who underwent a life-changing near-death experience. Veronica will tell us how a serious accident took her on an incredible journey beyond this world, where she discovered profound lessons about love, forgiveness, and the true purpose of life. Before we begin, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the upcoming emotional stories we have in store. Now, without further ado, let's hear from Veronica and her incredible story. My name is Veronica Santos. I am a 56-year-old accountant living in the vibrant yet introspective city of Portland, Oregon. My life has always been guided by numbers, spreadsheets, and deadlines, a structure I created for myself as a way to feel grounded and purposeful. To me, success was everything. The car I drove, the house I owned, the accounts I managed. Every day, I would walk into my office with a sense of pride, dressed in tailored suits that spoke of the years I'd spent building my career from the ground up. There was always a certain satisfaction in knowing that I had achieved what I set out to do, and I never questioned the cost of it. For as long as I can remember, my relationships took a back seat to my career. I have no children, and though I do have friends and a sister who lives nearby, I was never one to dwell on what I might be missing in the personal realms of life. I thought I was fulfilled. My days were filled with meetings and numbers. My nights were spent alone in a quiet home, which, over time, had come to feel more like a shelter than a place of warmth. Deep down, I knew there was something hollow in my life, but I was too focused on external achievements to consider it. Looking back, I can see now how everything was driven by a need to prove myself. I'd been raised with a belief that self-worth came through tangible success. I never stopped to question the impact I might have had on others or even what kind of legacy I'd leave behind, should my time come to an end. That's the funny thing about life. We believe we have all the time in the world to question, to change. It wasn't until that rainy night, that one irreversible moment, that everything I thought I knew about my life and myself was shattered, left behind like the pieces of my car on the wet asphalt. It was a cold, rainy evening, the kind where the streets glisten with a deceptive sheen that only Portland's rain can bring. I had stayed late at the office, once again convincing myself that finishing one last report was worth a quiet dinner alone. As I got into my car, I could feel the exhaustion settling in, but I brushed it off, accustomed to the rhythm of long hours and little rest. I merged onto the highway, the sound of rain pattering on the windshield, a steady rhythm that lulled my senses, and I let myself sink into the familiar routine of the drive. But as I took the next turn, everything happened in a flash. A car swerved out of nowhere, headlights blinding me as it lost control on the slick road, veering straight into my lane. My instincts kicked in, and I tried to maneuver out of the way, but the wet road betrayed me. The wheels slipped, the car spun, and in those seconds, time seemed to suspend itself. I remember gripping the wheel, my heart pounding so loud that it drowned out even the sound of metal crashing and glass shattering. The impact was brutal. I felt my body jerk against the seatbelt, heard the crunch of metal, and then silence. There was a numbness that took over, an eerie quiet, almost as if my senses were unwilling to process the devastation around me. My chest ached, my head was pounding, and yet, through all the chaos, a strange sense of calm washed over me. I knew this was serious, that I was teetering on the edge of something irreversible. Yet, there was no panic. Instead, I felt myself surrendering to the darkness that began to envelop me, letting go of the wheel, of the pain, of everything. In those final moments of consciousness, a series of thoughts raced through my mind. Is this how it ends? Was this all my life amounted to? I saw flashes of my sister, of my friends, even my coworkers. Regret hit me hard and fast, and I realized just how much I had sacrificed. But before I could think any further, the darkness took over completely, swallowing me into an abyss where time and space no longer mattered. The darkness was vast and endless, like floating in a night sky without stars. I didn't know where I was, but I sensed that it was somewhere far beyond my body, beyond anything I'd ever felt before. Then, slowly, a shift happened. I became aware of myself, yet not as Veronica, the accountant, the woman who had just been in a car crash. I was something else. It was as if my consciousness had detached from my physical form, floating free yet fully aware. I looked down, and there I was, lying in that mangled car, still and motionless. It was a strange, surreal sight, seeing my own body, battered and broken, surrounded by paramedics working frantically to save me. I could hear their voices, the hurried commands, the beeping of machines, and the unmistakable sound of someone shouting, "We're losing her." Yet, here I was, observing it all with a detached calmness that made no sense. I wasn't frightened. In fact, I felt more at peace than I ever had in my life. An intense light began to glow from somewhere beyond, pulling my attention away from the chaotic scene below. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Warm, soft, yet incredibly powerful. I felt a pull, an invitation to move closer, as if it were calling me home. The light was magnetic, filled with a sense of belonging and love so deep it felt like every part of me was being wrapped in warmth. As I drifted towards it, I noticed that the burden of pain, fear, and worry started to dissolve. Here, in this space, I was just me, free of titles, responsibilities, regrets, just a being embraced by an all-encompassing peace. In that moment, memories began to flicker before me, scenes from my life like pages of a book. I saw myself as a child, laughing with my family, my sister holding my hand. I saw my first day at work, my proud moments, and the long, lonely nights spent in my empty house. And with each memory, I felt an understanding that went beyond words. This was not merely a recounting of my life. It was as though I was being shown something greater, something profound about who I was and the choices I had made. And then, a realization swept over me. Was this the end? Had I crossed over? For the first time, a small pang of fear crept in. But even as I asked these questions, the light seemed to respond, soothing me, urging me to let go. This was only the beginning, it seemed to say. I was moving towards something beyond what I could comprehend. As I floated deeper into the warmth of the light, I felt a presence beside me, profound and radiant. It wasn't someone I recognized from my life, yet there was an intense familiarity, like meeting an old friend whose soul I knew intimately. He was surrounded by a soft, golden aura, and though he didn't speak with words, his presence conveyed messages directly to my heart, bypassing any need for language. I instinctively knew his name, Emmanuel. Emmanuel radiated a love that was beyond human understanding, a love so complete, it felt like it could melt away every regret, every ounce of pain I'd ever held. His eyes, though indescribable in their brilliance, held a kindness that pierced right to my core. I felt exposed, as though he could see every part of me, even the aspects I had hidden away from myself. Yet, there was no judgment in his gaze, only a profound understanding and acceptance. For a moment, I questioned if this was real. Could this be a dream? Am I imagining this? But Emmanuel's presence silenced my doubts, enveloping me in a sense of undeniable reality. Here, in his presence, I felt more alive than I ever had in the physical world. He spoke to me, not through words but through impressions, feelings, and direct knowledge. It was like he was communicating straight to my soul. "You are safe," he assured me, and his words resonated in every fiber of my being. There was no need to fear, no need to hold on to the life I'd known. His presence conveyed a message so profound. I found myself weeping, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming beauty of it all. Here, in this realm, everything made sense. Every question, every doubt I'd ever had about life felt answered by just being near him. In that silent conversation, I understood that Emmanuel wasn't just a guide. He was there to help me understand the choices I had made, to show me the deeper layers of my existence. I wanted to ask him so much, yet words seemed trivial, unnecessary. His very presence answered questions I didn't even know I had. Emmanuel was there not only as a witness to my journey, but as a source of truth. A truth so absolute that it felt like I was rediscovering a part of myself long forgotten. As I stood in Emmanuel's presence, a gentle yet powerful shift occurred. It was as if the fabric of time and space unraveled before me, revealing my life in a way I had never seen before. In an instant, I was immersed in a detailed vision of my entire life. Not just the major events, but even the smallest, seemingly insignificant moments. Each scene unfolded vividly, and I could feel everything, both as myself and as those around me. This was not just a review. It was a profound exploration of every ripple my actions had created. The first memories were warm, showing scenes from my childhood. I watched as a young girl with wide eyes and boundless dreams, a girl who hadn't yet been weighed down by expectations or self-imposed limitations. I saw my family, my parents laughing, my sister and I playing together. These moments, so long forgotten, brought a warmth I hadn't felt in years. I could feel the love and innocence that had once defined my life, and I was struck by a deep sense of nostalgia and longing. But as the scenes moved forward, they began to shift in tone. I saw my young adult years, the ambitious woman striving to prove herself, sacrificing relationships and moments of connection for the sake of career advancement. I watched as friendships withered, as calls from my family went unanswered, as I chose work over gatherings, late nights in the office over quiet evenings with loved ones. I could feel the loneliness, not just my own, but that of those I had left behind. Each scene revealed the impact of my actions on others, the hurt, the disappointments, the missed opportunities for connection. In one moment, I saw a friend reaching out to me during a difficult time in her life. I had brushed her off, promising to catch up soon, but never did. Now, I felt her pain and loneliness as if it were my own. In another scene, I saw my sister calling me repeatedly, trying to share her joy at the birth of her first child, while I had been too engrossed in my work to answer. The weight of these small, forgotten moments hit me hard. Emmanuel stood beside me, silent but compassionate, as I relived these memories. He was not judging me, yet I felt the sting of each lost moment. I realized that these seemingly minor choices had rippled outward, affecting lives in ways I had never considered. Through this life review, I understood that my achievements, the promotions, the accolades, they had meant little in the grand scheme of things. What truly mattered were the connections, the love I had given, or failed to give. And in this sacred space, I began to question everything I thought I valued. I had spent so much time chasing a definition of success that now felt hollow, empty. In Emmanuel's presence, I felt the weight of my life, not as a series of accomplishments, but as a tapestry woven from choices, relationships, and missed chances for compassion. I was overwhelmed with regret, but also a newfound understanding of what truly mattered. As the life review drew to a close, I felt an overwhelming sense of humility and a desire for forgiveness, though no one had explicitly condemned me. In that moment, Emmanuel's presence shifted, and his aura grew more intense, filling me with a profound sense of gravity. Through his silent communication, he conveyed a message that went beyond words, deeper than any spoken language could reach. I knew he was about to reveal something vital, something that would alter my understanding forever. He began to share a concept that reverberated through my soul, a truth that transcended the boundaries of my earthly comprehension. Emmanuel spoke of forgiveness, an unconditional love that was beyond any measure I had known. Every mistake, every misstep, he seemed to say, could be healed through genuine repentance, an honest return to the light. Yet, there was one sin, one act, that stood beyond the reach of redemption. It was as if a veil was lifted, and I saw the nature of this unforgivable sin. In the depths of my heart, I understood that this sin, the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, was not about any single action, but about a complete, conscious, and deliberate rejection of the divine. It was the willful, persistent refusal to acknowledge the truth, the absolute denial of the light even when it was offered openly. I realized that this sin was rooted in the depths of the soul, a place where one would have to deny the very essence of love and truth, to turn away from compassion, and to refuse forgiveness itself. It was not an impulsive mistake, but a choice to reject grace fully. As this understanding settled within me, I felt a chill. Emmanuel's words were not meant to frighten me, but to enlighten me. It was as if he was showing me the immense responsibility of the soul, to recognize and embrace truth when it is revealed, to open oneself to love even when it feels vulnerable. I sensed that this warning was not about judgment, but about preserving the sanctity of the soul, the connection to what is divine. My heart raced, feeling the weight of this revelation. This knowledge filled me with a sense of awe and reverence, a reminder that, in life, every choice to turn toward love, every act of kindness, was a step closer to aligning with the light. I understood then that my life, with all its flaws and regrets, was still within the reach of grace. Emmanuel's message was one of caution, but also of hope. There was still time, still room for transformation. In the quiet stillness that followed Emmanuel's message, I felt an indescribable warmth wash over me, like sunlight piercing through after a storm. It was as if every cell in my being was soaked in a love so boundless, so pure, that it defied any human definition. In that moment, Emmanuel's presence seemed to dissolve into the light around us, and I was left standing in the midst of something vast and eternal, a presence that felt alive, embracing, and infinitely forgiving. Suddenly, memories of my life resurfaced, yet this time they were accompanied by a profound sense of understanding and compassion. I could see each mistake, each moment of selfishness, but now they were bathed in a new perspective. Instead of shame or regret, I felt a gentle acceptance, an acknowledgement of my imperfections with the knowledge that they were all part of my journey. It was as though I was being shown that I was, despite my flaws, worthy of love and forgiveness. Emmanuel's voice, or perhaps the voice of this divine presence, echoed gently within me. Every misstep can be forgiven if there is a sincere heart willing to change. I felt tears well up as I realized the depth of this truth. The petty grievances I had clung to, the years spent chasing success over connection, even the people I had pushed away, all could be forgiven, all could be healed, if I had the courage to open my heart. In that space, forgiveness wasn't just a word. It was a force, alive and dynamic, an energy that flowed from the source of all things. It moved through me, filling me with an overwhelming peace. I understood that divine love was not conditional, not something one earned through perfection. Instead, it was a gift that was always available, waiting to be received by those willing to embrace it. As I basked in this revelation, I felt an intense desire to take this love back with me, to make amends, to live a life grounded in compassion rather than ambition. I realized that forgiveness wasn't just for my own healing. It was a force meant to be shared, a way to bring light into the lives of others. Emmanuel, or whatever part of the divine was guiding me, was showing me that I had a choice. I could return with this newfound understanding, a second chance to live in alignment with this love. In that moment, I made a vow to myself. If I was granted another chance at life, I would no longer take my relationships for granted. I would prioritize kindness, connection, and purpose over the hollow pursuit of status. I would live as a vessel of this love and forgiveness, so that others, too, might feel the light that had touched me so deeply. Just as I was enveloped in the warmth of this divine love, feeling the fullness of forgiveness and grace, a powerful force began to pull me back. It was as though an invisible thread, binding my soul to my physical form, had been tugged sharply. Panic surged within me as I sensed the peaceful light fading, replaced by the faint, unsettling sounds of beeping machines and hurried voices. I wasn't ready to leave this place, this realm where love and understanding permeated every fiber of my being. I wanted to stay, to linger in this comforting presence just a little longer. But the pull grew stronger, almost as if something or someone was calling me back to a reality I had nearly left behind. I looked around, desperate for one last glimpse of Emmanuel, for reassurance, for some final message. And in that split second, I felt his presence again, whispering a silent reminder, "Remember what you have learned here. Live it, share it, go back and be the light." It was a command, yet also a gentle plea, as if Emmanuel himself wanted me to carry this understanding forward. And then, like a harsh awakening from a deep sleep, I felt myself slam back into my body. The peace I had felt was replaced with an overwhelming rush of physical pain and confusion. I opened my eyes slowly, and the harsh brightness of the hospital room greeted me. I could make out the blurred forms of doctors and nurses surrounding me, the sterile smell, the stiffness of tubes and wires attached to every part of me. My chest hurt with every shallow breath, and my limbs felt heavy, almost foreign, as if I were trying to reconnect with a body that no longer fit. In the chaos of returning, I could hear someone sobbing softly. Turning my head with great effort, I saw my sister, her face wet with tears, clutching my hand with a desperation that spoke of nights spent at my bedside, fearing the worst. Her eyes widened as I opened mine, and a mixture of shock and relief washed over her face. "Veronica, you're back," she whispered, her voice breaking. The weight of her words struck me deeply. I was back, alive, given a second chance. In that moment, a flood of emotions hit me: gratitude, disbelief, a lingering sorrow for the peace I had left behind. Yet I knew this was where I was meant to be. The experiences I'd had, the love and forgiveness I'd felt, they weren't meant to be kept hidden. They were meant to be shared, to transform my life and, perhaps, the lives of those around me. I squeezed my sister's hand weakly, feeling the warmth of her touch and the reality of her presence grounding me. "I'm here," I whispered, tears welling up in my own eyes. It wasn't just a statement of physical return. It was a promise, to her, to myself, and to whatever divine force had given me this chance. I was back, and I was ready to live with a purpose I had never known before. Recovering from the accident was a slow, painful process, but each day brought a new sense of clarity and purpose. The physical healing was only one part of it. A deeper, inner transformation had taken root, reshaping how I saw the world and my place in it. I found myself reflecting constantly on the things I'd seen and felt during my experience. The overwhelming love, the sense of peace, and the truths I had learned in that space lingered with me, like echoes I couldn't shake and didn't want to. My priorities began to shift. The work that once consumed me now seemed hollow, a shadow of the purpose I had once believed it held. I returned to my accounting firm with a new outlook, one that confused my colleagues and even myself at times. I no longer found satisfaction in the long hours or the prestige of my title. Instead, I craved connection, true, meaningful relationships that went beyond numbers and transactions. My colleagues noticed the change too, and some approached me with curiosity, sensing that something profound had happened, though they didn't know what. At home, I began reaching out to those I had neglected over the years. I reconnected with my sister, spending long evenings talking about our childhood, sharing laughter, tears, and memories we both left in the past. For the first time, I truly listened to her, hearing the parts of her life I had been too busy to notice. And slowly, our bond grew stronger, healed by time, forgiveness, and shared moments of vulnerability. I started volunteering in my community, giving my time to help those in need. A path I would have once dismissed as a waste of valuable work hours. I helped at shelters, visited elderly care centers, and lent my skills to nonprofit organizations. Each act, however small, filled me with a sense of purpose and fulfillment that I had never known before. I realized that every person I encountered was an opportunity to share a part of the love I had experienced, to offer a moment of kindness or comfort that might change their day, perhaps even their life. But the transformation was not without struggle. There were days when I missed the drive, the adrenaline of the corporate world, and the sense of control it had given me. I questioned if this change was real or simply the aftermath of a traumatic experience. But then, I would remember Emmanuel's words, the light, the love that had embraced me, and the message to live and share the light. That reminder kept me grounded, reaffirming that this path, though different, was the one I was meant to follow. My life had taken on a new rhythm, one filled with peace, purpose, and a humble understanding that I was part of something much greater. I didn't need to chase success. I needed to embody love and kindness, to live in a way that honored the grace I had been shown. And with each passing day, that transformation deepened, becoming a part of who I was. Someone not defined by achievements, but by the quiet, profound connections I could foster with those around me. As the months passed, I felt an undeniable pull to share my story, not just with close friends or family, but with anyone who might be searching for hope, for meaning, or simply a reason to believe in something greater. The experience had changed me so profoundly that keeping it to myself felt almost selfish, like I was hoarding a gift meant for others. The world was filled with people struggling with loss, regret, or a lack of direction, people just like I had been. I knew, deep in my soul, that my story was a way to reach them, to help them see that it's never too late to change, to reconnect, to forgive, and to be forgiven. The first time I shared my experience publicly was at a small community center gathering. I was terrified, unsure how people would react, afraid they might think I was delusional or making things up. But as I stood there, facing a room filled with faces softened by curiosity and openness, I felt Emmanuel's presence again, reassuring me. I took a deep breath and began, recounting everything: the accident, the light, Emmanuel, the life review, the lesson of forgiveness, and the transformation that followed. I spoke of my regrets, my awakening, and the deep, abiding love I had felt, a love that was available to each of us. The response was overwhelming. People came up to me afterward, some with tears in their eyes, sharing their own stories of loss or despair, finding comfort in the idea that love and forgiveness were within reach. A woman hugged me, whispering that she had been struggling to forgive herself for something in her past, and that my story had given her hope. A man shared that he had lost his faith years ago, but was now feeling something rekindle within him. I realized in those tender moments of connection that my story had become a bridge, a way to help others reach their own place of healing and reflection. From that day on, sharing became part of my life's mission. I began speaking at events, churches, and support groups, and even wrote articles and blog posts detailing my journey. I wanted people to see that life could be different, that transformation was possible no matter how far they had strayed from their true selves. Each time I shared, I felt that divine presence guiding me, as if Emmanuel was still beside me, encouraging me to keep spreading the message. This mission to share brought a new dimension to my life, filling it with purpose that far exceeded anything my career had ever provided. I had become a vessel for the love and light I had experienced, carrying a message that was larger than myself. And as I continued on this path, I found that my own heart was healing, deepening with each connection, each story shared. I was no longer the woman who chased success and overlooked people. I was someone who had found her true calling, not in titles or possessions, but in love, kindness, and the simple act of sharing hope. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and check out this next story. It's truly moving.